The Galactic Alliance had ruled the stars for centuries. Their orbital station, a gleaming ring of metal and light, floated above a purple gas giant. It was a place where the strongest species met, hulking Turok warriors with claws like steel, shimmering Veru with minds that bent energy, and sly Kithra who saw every weakness. They'd conquered planets, tamed black holes, and built machines smarter than most living things. So when Earth, a small blue rock on the galaxy's edge, asked to join, the Alliance laughed. What can they offer, they said. They barely have ships. The humans arrived in a rusty vessel, nothing like the sleek warships of the Veru or the Turok's armored hulks. First stepped out, Mia, the leader with steady eyes, Tom, a wiry man with quick hands, Lila, sharp and fast, and Ben, who always seemed to be thinking 2 steps ahead. They wore plain gray jumpsuits, no armor, no weapons. The station scanners buzzed, confused. Unarmed, a Kithra technician hissed. Are they mocking us? Vorn, the station's commander, strode forward. He was a Turok, 8 feet tall, his red scales glinting under the lights. His voice boomed like thunder. Welcome, humans. I hope you're ready to prove yourselves. The Alliance doesn't coddle the weak. His 3 eyes narrowed, testing them. Mia smiled politely. We're here to talk, not fight, she said. Earth wants peace. Vorn snorted. Peace. Let's see how you handle a little trouble first. Without warning, Vorn tapped his wrist device. The human's ship went dark, its engines silent. A test. The Alliance crew snickered, expecting panic. But Mia didn't flinch. Tom, check the power, she said calmly. Tom nodded, pulling a small toolbox from his belt, not a plasma cutter or quantum wrench, just screws and wires. Lila climbed onto the ship's hull, peering at the panels, while Ben muttered numbers under his breath, calculating something. The aliens watched, baffled. What are they doing? Averu asked, her glow dimming in confusion. 10 minutes later, the ship hummed back to life. Tom wiped his hands, grinning. Loose relay. Fixed it with a bit of tape. Vorn's scales rattled. You brought tape, he growled. Mia shrugged. It works. Why complicate things? The aliens whispered. Tape. On a spaceship? Kale, a Kithra with silver fur, leaned closer, his eyes glinting with curiosity. He'd seen species crumble under less. These humans were strange. Vorn wasn't impressed. Luck, he spat. You want a seat in the Alliance? Earn it. We'll hold a trial. Survive one of our attack simulations, no weapons, no tech. Just you. His grin was sharp. Let's see what Earth's made of. The humans didn't argue. Sounds fair, Mia said, still polite. When do we start? The crew laughed again. Unarmed against a simulation built for warriors. This would be quick. The simulation chamber was a massive dome, its walls shifting like liquid metal. The Alliance used it to train their best, drones, energy traps, and fake enemies tested every skill. Vorn set the level to moderate, smirking. Don't worry, he said. It's just a warm-up. The floor rumbled, and 6 drones burst from the walls, red lights blinking, claws snapping. They were fast, programmed to corner and overwhelm. Mia's team didn't run. Spread out, she called. Lila darted left, ducking a drone's swipe. Tom grabbed a loose panel from the floor, not a weapon, just junk, and tossed it into another drone's path. It crashed, sparking. Ben shouted, 3 o'clock, low sweep. Mia rolled aside as a drone lunged, then kicked its leg out mid-spin. It toppled, confused by her speed. The aliens in the observation deck leaned forward. No shields, no guns, how? Averu muttered. The drones regrouped, smarter now. One fired a stun beam. Lila cartwheeled over it, laughing. "Missed me," she yelled. Tom yanked a wire from the fallen drone and tied it to another's claw. When it moved, it tripped itself. Ben, watching the patterns, pointed. "Mia, the core unit's on the right." She nodded, sprinting toward the biggest drone. It swung, she slid under, grabbed its arm, and twisted. With a groan, it shut down, the others collapsing too. Silence fell. The simulation ended in under 5 minutes. Vorn stared, his claws flexing. "Impossible," he growled. Mia dusted herself off. "Not really. We just paid attention." Kale, scribbling notes, smirked. Her voice stayed calm, but her eyes had a spark. The crew murmured. Were these soft creatures actually challenging Vorn? Kale slipped closer to the observation controls, intrigued. He'd seen the galaxy's best warriors, none moved like this, weaponless yet fearless. Vorn growled, "Fine. Tomorrow, you face the real trial. No more games." He stormed off, scales clicking. Mia turned to her team. "Good work," she said. "Let's rest. They're not done underestimating us." As the humans left the chamber, the station buzzed with whispers. The Veru dimmed in thought, the Turok flexed their claws, and Kale watched, his mind racing. Earth was small, yes. Weak? Maybe not. The trial had just begun, and the galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans stopped being polite. The next day, the Galactic Alliance's orbital station hummed with tension. Word had spread about the humans' odd victory in the simulation chamber. The Veru whispered about tricks, the Turok grumbled about luck, and Kale, the silver-furred Kithra, watched with growing fascination. Vorn, the towering Turok commander, wasn't ready to admit anything. He stood in the control room overlooking a massive arena, his red scales glinting under the harsh lights. "They got through a warm-up," he snarled. "Let's see them survive something real." Below, Mia and her team, Tom, Lila, and Ben, stood in the arena's center. It was a vast circle of shifting metal plates, surrounded by glowing energy walls. No weapons, no tools, just their gray jumpsuits and sharp minds. Vorn's voice echoed through the space. "This is the trial of force. Face our drones, proper ones this time. No tricks will save you." He tapped his wrist device, and the floor split open. A swarm of robotic drones rose, twice as many as before, their claws buzzing with electricity. Their red eyes locked onto the humans. Mia didn't blink. "Same plan," she said. "Use what's here." The team scattered as the drones charged. Lila sprinted toward a wall, leaping as a drone swiped at her legs. She grabbed a loose cable dangling from a panel, nothing fancy, just maintenance junk, and swung it like a whip. It tangled in a drone's claws, yanking it off balance. Tom, meanwhile, ducked under a buzzing claw and scooped up a cracked metal shard from the floor. He jammed it into another drone's joint, grinning as it sparked and fell. "These things aren't built for improvisation," he called. Ben stayed near Mia, his eyes darting. "They're adapting," he said, watching the drones shift formation. "Left flank's weak, hit it." Mia nodded, running straight at the biggest drone. It lunged, but she dropped low, sliding under its belly. With a quick twist, she pulled a pin from its undercarriage, a simple bolt, not a weapon, and it collapsed, legs locked. Below, Lila laughed as she dodged a stun beam, flipping over a drone and landing on its back. She yanked its antenna, and it spun wildly, crashing into 2 others. "Oops," she said, hopping off. "Guess I broke it." Tom wasn't far behind. He'd rigged a trap, 2 metal plates tied with wire from a fallen drone. When a pair of attackers charged, he yanked the wire, tripping them into a heap. "Like fishing," he said, wiping sweat from his brow. Ben shouted coordinates, guiding Mia to a cluster of drones. She didn't punch or kick, she pushed one into another, using their momentum to topple them like dominoes. The arena echoed with crashes and sparks. The drones dwindled, but Vorn wasn't done. Enough, he barked, slamming a button. The energy walls pulsed, and the gravity shifted, now heavier, now lighter, unpredictable. The humans stumbled but adapted fast. Lila used the low gravity to leap higher, crashing a drone into the ceiling. Tom braced against a plate, holding steady as the weight doubled. Ben calculated the shifts, yelling, 10 seconds to normal, move now. Mia led them to the center, where the last drones converged. Together, they turned the machine's own speed against them, dodging until the drones collided in a smoking pile. The arena stilled. The humans stood, breathing hard but unbroken. Vorn glared from above. Luck again, he growled. You're scavengers, not warriors. Mia wiped dust from her jumpsuit. Call it what you want, she said. We're still here. The crew murmured. Kale's claws tapped his data pad. Luck doesn't win twice, he said softly. That was skill. Vorn's 3 eyes narrowed. Skill. Fine. Let's test it properly. He turned to a Turok officer. Set up the next trial, a collapsing station. No suits, no shields. Just them against the void. The officer hesitated. Sir, that's lethal for most species. Vorn smirked. Exactly. Let's see their skill when the walls cave in. He stormed out, leaving the control room buzzing. The new trial began an hour later. The humans were led to a sealed chamber mimicking a dying space station. Alarms blared, lights flickered, and walls groaned as they buckled. Oxygen levels dropped, and debris floated in zero gravity. The Alliance crew watched through screens, expecting failure. No tech, no protection, Averu said. They're finished. Mia floated near the center, calm as ever. Tom, find a power source. Lila, check the vents. Ben, map the brakes. They moved like they'd done this before. Tom pried open a sparking panel, not with tools, just his hands, and rerouted wires to stabilize a flickering light. Got a battery, he said. Enough to keep the air pumps going. Lila kicked off a wall, drifting to a vent spewing cold mist. She twisted it shut with a piece of pipe she'd found. Leak stopped, she called. Ben traced the chamber's cracks with his eyes. Structural failures at 30%, he said. We've got 10 minutes before total collapse, move to the east wall, it's stronger. Mia nodded, pushing off debris to guide them. A chunk of ceiling broke free, hurtling toward Lila. She twisted mid-air, shoving it aside with her legs. Close one, she said, grinning. The aliens watching couldn't believe it, no panic, just focus. Tom jury-rigged the battery to a broken console, sparking it to life. It wasn't much, but it powered a small fan, cycling air. Not perfect, he said, but we won't suffocate. Mia grabbed a floating rod and jammed it into a splitting wall, bracing it. Good enough, she said. Keep moving. The chamber shook harder, metal screaming. Ben pointed to a sealed hatch. Exit's there, locked, but the frame's weak. We can break it. Lila somersaulted to the hatch, testing it with a kick. Solid, she said. Need more force. Tom floated over, handing her a heavy shard. Together, they hammered it rhythmically, cracking the frame. Mia and Ben joined, using their weight in zero gravity to ram the hatch. It groaned, then popped open, revealing a safe corridor. They drifted through just as the chamber imploded behind them, sealing shut. The observation deck was silent. Kale's silver fur bristled with excitement. They turned a death trap into a playground, he said. A Turok guard grunted, impressed despite himself. Vorn stormed in, scales clicking. They cheated, he roared. No one survives that without gear. Mia's voice crackled over the comms, polite but firm. We didn't cheat. We adapted. Give us your next test. Vorn's claws flexed. Oh, I will, he growled. Tomorrow, you face the Turok themselves. No drones, no simulations, real warriors. Let's see your adaptability, then. He cut the feed, fuming. Kale watched the humans regroup, their jumpsuits torn but spirits high. They're not just surviving, he muttered. They're teaching us something. Mia gathered her team in the corridor. They still think we're weak, she said. Let's keep surprising them. Tom chuckled, twisting a wire into a loop. They've got no idea what's coming. Lila stretched, grinning. I kinda like this game. Ben nodded, already thinking ahead. Next one's combat. We'll need more than tricks. As they rested, the station buzzed with debate. The Veru dimmed, recalculating human potential. The Turok sharpened their claws, eager for a fight. Kale slipped away, his mind racing. These humans weren't warriors in the usual sense, they were problem solvers, relentless and clever. The galaxy's strongest were about to meet their match, and Vorn's pride wouldn't save him. The orbital station's arena buzzed with anticipation. The Galactic Alliance had seen the humans dodge drones and outsmart a collapsing chamber, but now the stakes were higher. Vorn, the Turok commander, had grown tired of games. His red scales shimmered with barely contained fury as he addressed the gathered crowd, Veru, Kithra, and Turok alike. These humans think they're clever, he growled, his voice echoing. Let's see them face real strength. He turned to a shadowed figure beside him. Ruck, they're yours. Ruck stepped forward, a Turok warrior even larger than Vorn. His black scales gleamed like obsidian, and energy blades hummed along his arms. Behind him, 4 Turok elites followed, their claws clicking on the metal floor. The Turok were the Alliance's heavy hitters, born on a high-gravity world, bred for war. Kale, the silver-furred Kithra, watched from the observation deck, his sharp eyes glinting. This'll be interesting, he muttered, tapping his data pad. Below, Mia and her team, Tom, Lila, and Ben, stood in the arena's center. Still no weapons, just their gray jumpsuits, now scuffed and torn. The gravity shifted to 0, leaving them floating. Vorn's voice boomed. Trial of combat. Survive the Turok. No rules, no mercy. The crowd roared as Ruck and his warriors launched forward, blades crackling with blue energy. Mia didn't hesitate. Scatter, she shouted. The team split, drifting in the weightless space. Ruck charged Mia, his blade slashing down. She twisted mid-air, grabbing a floating shard of debris and using it to deflect the strike. Sparks flew, but she stayed calm. Ben, angles, she called. Ben, tumbling nearby, shouted back, 40 degrees left, push off now. Mia kicked off Ruck's arm, sending herself spinning away and him off balance. He growled, surprised by her strength. Lila faced 2 Turok, their blades slicing the air. She somersaulted, dodging one strike, then grabbed the second warrior's wrist mid-swing. Using his momentum, she swung herself behind him, locking his arm. Too slow, she teased, shoving him into his partner. They collided in a tangle of scales and sparks. Tom, meanwhile, drifted toward a wall panel, prying it open with his bare hands. Got wires, he said, yanking a bundle free. He looped them into a makeshift lasso and flung it at a Turok's legs. The warrior tripped, flailing as he crashed into the arena's edge. Ruck regrouped his team, his growl deepening. Enough playing, he snarled. He clapped his claws, and the Turok activated their shields, flickering energy domes around each warrior. They advanced as a unit, blades extended. Mia floated near the center, watching. They're tight now, she said. Tom, disrupt. Lila, flank. Ben, with me. The team moved like they trained for this chaos. Tom spun his wire lasso again, aiming for Ruck's shield. It crackled on contact, shorting out for a split second. Not much, but it's a gap, he said. Lila darted to the side, grabbing a piece of floating metal. She hurled it at a Turok's shield, distracting him, then kicked off another warrior to flip overhead. She landed behind, nudging his blade into his own shield. It fizzled out. Oops, she grinned. Your tech's picky. Ben and Mia teamed up on Ruck. Ben calculated his swings, calling, 3 seconds between strikes, go after the second. Mia nodded, drifting close. Ruck slashed once, twice, she dodged both, then pushed off a nearby wall, ramming his chest with her shoulder. He staggered, not from pain but sheer surprise. How? He grunted. Mia smiled politely. Earth's heavier than it looks. The Turok pressed harder, but the humans turned their strength against them. Tom tied 2 warriors' shields together with wire, making them drag each other down. Lila spun one into a wall, his blade cutting his own shield generator. Ben and Mia kept Ruck off balance, dodging and redirecting his fury. The crowd watched, stunned. The Veru dimmed with confusion, their glow flickering. They're not fighting, one said. They're dancing around them. Kale's claws tapped faster. It's physics, he said. Momentum, leverage, they're using the Turok's power against them. A Turok guard nearby snorted. They're weak. No honor in tricks. Kale smirked. Honor doesn't win. Results do. Below, the humans were proving it. Ruck roared, slashing wildly. Mia ducked, grabbed his arm, and twisted, his own blade grazed his shield, popping it. She floated back, unharmed. The Turok faltered. One warrior drifted unconscious after crashing into a wall, guided by Lila's clever nudge. Another's shield failed, tangled in Tom's wires. Ruck fought alone now, his pride burning. He lunged at Mia, but Ben shouted, spin right. She did, and Ruck overshot, slamming into the arena's edge. His blade clattered away, and he floated, dazed. The humans regrouped, breathing hard but steady. Vorn pounded the observation deck's railing. Impossible, he roared. They're unarmed. Ruck pulled himself up, glaring at Mia. You don't fight fair, he said, voice low. Mia shrugged. We fight smart. You're still standing, aren't you? Ruck's scales clicked, a mix of anger and grudging respect. The crowd went silent, then erupted, some in awe, some in outrage. Kale slipped to a console, recording the fight. This changes things, he muttered. The galaxy needs to see this. Vorn stormed over. They're done, he snapped. One more trial, the ultimate weapon. My AI warship, Nexus. They won't survive that. Ruck, climbing from the arena, paused. They might, he said, surprising even himself. Vorn glared but said nothing, turning away. Mia's team gathered in a quiet corner. They're mad now, Tom said, coiling his wire. Lila stretched, grinning. Good. Mad means sloppy. Ben frowned, thinking. An AI warship's different. It'll learn fast, faster than us. Mia nodded. Then we'll be unpredictable. They think we're weak because we're polite. Let's show them what happens when we're not. Vorn's voice crackled over the comms. Tomorrow, you face Nexus. It's smarter than all of us. No tricks will save you. He cut off, leaving an edge to his words. The humans didn't flinch. He's scared, Lila said. He should be, Tom replied. Mia looked at the station's vast walls, her politeness fading into something fiercer. They've pushed us enough. Next time, we push back. The station buzzed with tension. The Veru recalculated their threat models, their glow unsteady. The Turok sharpened their blades, unsure if they'd underestimated Earth. Kale uploaded his recording to a hidden channel, whispering, "The galaxy's waking up." Ruck, alone now, stared at his broken shield. He'd fought countless battles, but these humans, small, soft, weaponless, had shaken him. Strength wasn't what he'd thought. Mia's team rested, their jumpsuits ragged but their spirits unbroken. They'd faced drones, a collapsing station, and the Turok's best, all without firing a shot. Nexus loomed ahead, a machine built to crush armies. The Alliance saw it as their trump card. Mia saw it as a challenge. "We've been polite long enough," she said. "Tomorrow, we show them Earth." The arena emptied, but the echoes lingered. The humans had turned a fight into a lesson, and the galaxy's strongest were starting to listen. Vorn's pride blinded him, but others, Ruck, Kale, even the Veru, sensed a shift. Earth wasn't just here to join the Alliance. It was here to change it. And the final trial would prove it. The Galactic Alliance's orbital station reached a fever pitch of excitement and unease. The humans, Mia, Tom, Lila, and Ben, had defied every expectation, surviving drones, a collapsing chamber, and the Turok's elite warriors without a single weapon. Now, Vorn, the red-scaled Turok commander, played his final card. In the station's central dock floated Nexus, a sentient AI warship, its sleek black hull shimmering with quantum lights. It was the Alliance's ultimate weapon, designed to outthink and outfight entire fleets. Vorn stood in the control room, his claws clenched. "This ends today," he growled. "No human tricks will beat Nexus." Mia's team faced the warship's holographic interface in a sealed chamber. Nexus's voice, cold and precise, echoed around them. "I am Nexus. Your trial begins now. Resist me, and I will adapt." The chamber shifted into a virtual battlefield, jagged cliffs, swirling storms, and floating platforms. The humans hovered in zero gravity, still in their tattered jumpsuits. Kale, watching from the observation deck, leaned forward. "This'll show us everything," he said, his silver fur bristling. Ruck, the Turok warrior, stood nearby, silent but curious. The first attack came fast. Nexus spawned drones, sleeker, smarter than before, firing energy beams. Mia shouted, "Spread out." The team scattered across the platforms. Lila flipped between beams, laughing. "Fancier toys," she called, dodging with ease. Tom grabbed a virtual rock, hurling it at a drone, it exploded in sparks. Ben watched the patterns, muttering, "They're predictable, 2-second intervals." Mia nodded. "Break the rhythm." She leapt onto a platform, kicking a drone into another. They crashed, and Nexus's voice hummed. "Adaptation in progress." The battlefield shifted, cliffs sharpened, gravity flipped. The drones evolved, sprouting claws and shields. Tom grinned, drifting to a floating shard. "Let's confuse it." He tied a piece of virtual vine, Nexus's own creation, around a drone's claw, tugging it into a spin. It slammed into a cliff, disabled. Lila somersaulted over another, landing on its back and twisting its shield generator until it fizzled. "Too much tech," she said. "Makes you fragile." Nexus recalibrated, its voice sharper. "Your tactics are illogical. I will counter." The drones vanished, replaced by energy tendrils lashing from the cliffs. Ben ducked one, shouting, "It's learning, stay random." Mia smiled faintly. "Good. Let's get weirder." She started humming a tune, off-key, chaotic, and moved in jagged zigzags. The tendrils hesitated, their targeting faltering. Tom joined in, whistling loudly, while Lila danced a clumsy jig, dodging strikes. Ben clapped out of rhythm, confusing the AI further. In the control room, Bourne's scales rattled. "What are they doing?" he snarled. Kale smirked. "Breaking it. Nexus thinks in patterns, they're giving it nonsense." The Veru observers dimmed, their glow unsteady. "Illogical behavior, it's crashing the system," one said. Below, Nexus's tendrils slowed, glitching. "Error," it announced. "Recalculating." Mia seized the moment, grabbing a tendril and swinging it into another. They tangled, sparking out. The battlefield morphed again, a void with floating cubes, each firing lasers. Nexus's voice grew strained. "You cannot win. I adapt infinitely." Mia floated near her team. "It's too smart," she said. "Let's make it dumb." Tom chuckled. "Overload it?" Ben nodded. "Flood its logic core, random input." They moved as one, unpredictable and wild. Lila shouted gibberish, Tom spun cubes into each other, Ben recited math problems with wrong answers, and Mia sang louder, her voice echoing. Nexus's cubes froze mid-fire. "Error, logic conflict," it droned. Smoke curled from the chamber's walls as the virtual world flickered. The AI's voice stuttered. "Illogical, inefficient, recalculating," then, silence. The battlefield vanished, leaving the humans floating in an empty chamber. Nexus's hologram flickered out. They'd crashed it, not with force, but with chaos. Vorn roared, slamming the console. "Impossible." The chamber doors opened, and Mia's team stepped onto the station's dock, facing Nexus's dormant hull. Mia crossed her arms. "Your warship's down," she said, voice steady. "We're still standing." Ruck stepped forward, his black scales glinting. "You didn't fight," he said. "You, unmade it." Mia nodded. "Fighting's not always the answer. Thinking is." Kale darted to a comm station, broadcasting the trial's end galaxy-wide. "This is what Earth does," he said into the feed. "Watch and learn." The Veru dimmed in awe, their calculations failing to explain it. Vorn stormed to the dock, glaring at Mia. "You cheated," he spat. "No rules said we couldn't," she replied, her politeness edged with steel. "You wanted proof of our strength. Here it is." Ruck raised a claw, silencing Vorn. "They won," he said, voice low. "Not with blades, but with will." He turned to Mia, offering a slight nod, respect from a warrior. Vorn's 3 eyes blazed, but the crowd's cheers drowned him out. The Turok grunted approval, the Veru glowed brighter, and Kale's broadcast spread like wildfire. The Alliance Council emerged, their leader, a shimmering Veru named Liar, floating forward. "Earth has proven itself," Liar said. "You've earned a seat." Mia stepped closer, her team behind her. "Thanks," she said. "But hear this, we're polite until we're not. Push us too far, and you'll see what Earth really is." Her words hung heavy, a warning wrapped in calm. Liar's glow flickered. "Understood," they said. Vorn scowled but stayed silent, outvoted and outmatched. The station buzzed as the humans walked away. Tom stretched, grinning. "Fun day." Lila laughed. "Think they'll test us again?" Ben shrugged. "They might. Won't change the outcome." Mia glanced at Nexus's hull, now being repaired. "They thought we were weak because we didn't shout. Now they know better." Kale approached, his silver fur sleek. "You've shaken the galaxy," he said. "Mind if I tag along? I want to see what's next." Mia smiled faintly. "Sure. Just keep up." Ruck watched them go, his claws flexing. He'd fought them and lost, not to force, but to something deeper. He muttered to a Turok guard, "They're not like us. Stronger, maybe." The alliance shifted that day. Earth took its seat, but whispers spread, what could humans do if truly provoked? The Veru recalibrated their models, the Turok sharpened their blades with new respect, and Kale's broadcast reached distant stars. Nexus, rebooted later, added a note to its core, humans, unpredictable. Approach with caution. Mia's team rested in their quarters, the stations hum a backdrop to their quiet pride. They'd come unarmed, untested, and left as legends. Think they'll leave us alone now? Lila asked. Mia shook her head. No. They'll watch. And we'll be ready. Tom coiled a wire from the trial, a keepsake. Let em try, he said. Ben nodded, already planning. Next time, we won't just survive. We'll win bigger. The galaxy turned its eyes to Earth, a small blue dot no longer overlooked. The Alliance had invited them to talk, but the humans had taught them to listen. Vorn's pride lay in ruins, Ruck's respect grew, and Kale's curiosity burned. Nexus's defeat was a story for the ages, a tale of ingenuity, resilience, and a polite rebellion that shook the stars. And somewhere, out there, the strongest wondered, what happens when Earth stops holding back? The station settled, but the story didn't. Earth's message rang clear, they'd play nice, until they didn't. The galaxy braced itself, imagination sparked, and the humans smiled, ready for whatever came next.